The story begins as we meet a hardcore gamer named Alan after he beats Elden Ring without even taking any damage. But he thinks it was too easy, so he wants to find something else that can challenge him. He suddenly gets an ad for a game that never ends, which he finds interesting, and he realizes he can play it on Hell mode, which is said to be so difficult that it fills players with despair. But he's confident in his skills, so he decides to try it, and he even chooses the hardest class of being a summoner. He suddenly gets sucked into the game, and he finds himself reincarnated as a newborn baby. After a year, we see Alan's mother Teresa feeding him, and he recalls how he used to live a miserable life, so he's glad he has a chance to start over. He's still too young to talk, but he can understand what his parents are saying, since everyone uses Japanese in this world. He realizes that he lives in a small village, where the people pay taxes to the ruling lord, and his father Rodin is a hard-working man who loves his family. His parents put him to bed, and they go to have dinner. But we learn that he hasn't worked out how to open his status window, even though he's been trying for over a year. A book suddenly appears in front of him, but his parents hear him scream, so he realizes that he messed up, and pretends that he was just talking in his sleep. After they leave, he opens the book to check his stats, and he realizes he has 2 skills as a summoner, but he sees that he can only summon H-rank beasts and insects at his current level. He also finds a letter from the god of creation, who apologizes for the delay in delivering his grimoire, and explains that it took time to finish it since his class is still under testing. He tries to summon a monster, but nothing happens, and he thinks he needs to figure things out himself, since there are no guides in this world. He uses his create skill to make an insect card, and he prepares to summon it, but he realizes that his mother is watching him, so he goes to sleep. The next day, Alan realizes that his parents are busy, so he takes out his grimoire and summons the insect, causing a grasshopper to appear. He wonders if it will follow his orders, and he tries telling it what to do, but it just jumps around, so he realizes it doesn't understand him, since it only has the intelligence of a bug. He checks its stats, and sees that it doesn't have a name, so he decides to call it Denka. He notices that it buffs his endurance and agility, which he finds amazing, but Teresa freaks out as she sees it, and she crushes it with her foot. After a few days of experimenting with his skills, he manages to summon an H-rank mouse, and he realizes that it also lacks intelligence, but he can order it to use its scurry ability. We learn that Denka's ability is to hop, but Alan believes that the world is filled with dangerous creatures, and he thinks his summons are too weak to defeat anything. He realizes that he can stock up to 10 cards for each creature, and thinks their buffs are important, because after he stocked up on 10 mouse cards, he had enough strength to cut wood with his axe. But he knows that he still needs to grind a lot to get stronger, since leveling up in Hell mode requires 100 times more XP than normal. Rodin returns home, but Teresa is surprised to see him covered in blood, so he explains that he just finished hunting a great boar. We learn that he goes monster hunting with his friends during winter and fall, and he asks Alan if he wants to see the great boar. Alan looks around the village, since it's his first time outside the house, and Rodin shows him the boar he defeated. His neighbor Jurga tells everyone to welcome their champion, so they all cheer for him, but he explains that he just got lucky, and Jurga thinks he's being humble. Alan greets him, so he's impressed that a 1-year-old can already talk, and Alan asks him about the boar, so he reveals that it's a C-rank monster, and it took 20 men to take it down, which gives Alan an idea about how strong the monsters are. 10 months later, Alan levels up his summon and creates skills, and he realizes that he can now make G-ranked cards. He also gains a skill that fuses his summons, and he notices that his card space has doubled, so he can now get more buffs from stocking his cards. He unlocks the note feature, which writes down his thoughts into the book, and he wants to continue experimenting with his skills, but he knows that he needs to recover his mana. He quickly eats dinner, and tries to fuse his mouse cards, but the book tells him he doesn't have enough mana, even though he has already recovered. So he tries to create a G-rank beast instead, but still fails since he lacks the mana, so he realizes that he needs to level up his stats before he can do anything. After 2 years, we see that Alan has managed to get 2 G-ranked cards, and he fuses them to create a bird. He decides to name it Chappie, and as he summons it, he realizes that it has the ability to mimic voices. He thinks it can help him trick his enemies, and he summons his 2 other G-ranked beasts, which are a frog and a mole. We learn that the frog's ability is to provoke enemies, while the mole can dig holes in the ground, which is useful for setting up traps. He thinks he can dominate the game by mastering his summons, but he falls into a hole that his mole dug out, and he realizes that it's time to duel with his neighbor. He plays dueling knights with Jurga's daughter Krenna, who easily overpowers him, and he wonders why he can't keep up with her speed, since his agility should be higher from his creature's buffs. He ends up losing the duel, and Teresa tells Krenna to go home since it's getting late, and Alan helps his mother carry her vegetables, since he knows that she's pregnant. That evening, Alan offers to help his parents harvest, since he doesn't want his mother to push herself, but they tell him to just play with Krenna, since they want him to enjoy his childhood. Teresa wonders why he's been throwing rocks at a tree, so he explains that he's practicing how to fight monsters, so that he can protect her if she gets attacked. Rodin praises him for his bravery, but we learn that he was only trying to see if he could learn skills aside from summoning. His parents tell him they can't wait for his appraisal ceremony, which determines the kind of talents children have when they turn 5, and Rodin hopes that his talent might make them rich. During winter, Alan learns that he can now summon a creature for a whole day, but Krenna suddenly calls him, and she defeats him once again. But Teresa freaks out when she sees Denka, and they realize that she's about to give birth. So Rodin tells Krenna to call her mother, and Alan becomes nervous, since he's never seen anyone give birth before. Krenna's mother Hilda arrives, and she tells the men to leave the room, before helping Teresa give birth. After some time, Rodin and Alan hear a baby crying, so they rush to Teresa's side. She tells Rodin it's a boy, so he decides to name him Mash, and Alan thinks about how he doesn't regret leaving his past life behind, since he was living like a loser. But now that he has a second chance, he's determined to max out his stats and dominate the world, so that he can break the chains of poverty and give his family a better life. When Alan turns 5, he asks his father about the appraisal ceremony, so he explains that children from all walks of life will participate in it, and their talents will determine their future. They head to a commoner village with Jurga and Krenna, and they meet the other children who will participate in the ceremony. But Alan hears people talking about him, since they can tell that he's a serf, which is the poorest of the poor. The officials greet the participants, and note that their country has seen heroes who started as serfs, which is why they welcome children from all walks of life. Everyone enters the venue, and Alan sees the statues of the gods they worship, realizing that one of them is the god of creation named Elm. They begin the ceremony, and the first participant is the village chief's son Palomas. He puts his hand on the crystal ball, causing his stats to appear, and the officials reveal that he has the talent to become a merchant, so his father is proud of him. Another boy takes the test, but the officials tell him he has no talent, so he only gets emotional damage. A boy named Dagora touches the ball, and the officials tell him he has the talent to become an axe user, so he's happy with the results, and Alan is impressed since he's the first person with an A-rank attribute. After the other kids take the test, the officials tell Krenna that it's her turn, so she runs to the ball and touches it, causing it to suddenly glow, and the officials are amazed by her stats. They reveal that she has the talent to become a sword lord, which is one of the best classes in this world, and everyone's impressed hearing this. Jurga is happy that she hit the jackpot, and he starts to celebrate, but the officials tell Alan it's his turn. So he walks to the ball, thinking it will reveal that he's a summoner, but as he touches it, there's a flash of light that suddenly knocks him down. Rodin asks the officials about the results since he doesn't know how to read, but they reveal that Alan has no talent, and he realizes that all of his stats are E-ranked, but the word on his talent makes no sense. He thinks it must be a text glitch, and he blames the devs for it, wondering why they didn't test their game for bugs, but Rodin is fine with the results, and he tells Alan it's time to go home. They return to Teresa, and Rodin tells Alan it doesn't matter if he has no talent, since he will always be their pride and joy. He knows that they're poor, but he's still happy that he was born into this family, since his parents love him more than anything in this world. At night, Alan thinks about the results of the test, and he believes that all of his attributes are E-ranked, since he's the only one playing on Hell mode. He thinks all of the kids are level 1, and the rank system reflects the growth they can expect when they level up, but he knows that his progress is 100 times slower than usual. So the test didn't display the actual value of his stats, and he thinks the experience is enough to make other players depressed, but he's still determined to beat the game. The next day, Alan and his family visit Krenna, and Teresa congratulates her for discovering her talent. Hilda notes that they should celebrate by drinking, but Rodin refuses, so Alan wonders if he's jealous. He notes that he's happy for Jirga, since Krenna has an amazing talent, but Jirga wonders why Rodin wants to cut ties with them. Everyone is surprised hearing this, but Rodin explains that he needs to do it, since Krenna is about to join the nobility, and she can't be seen hanging out with serfs. Alan realizes that he's trying to do Jirga a favor he didn't ask for, and they start fighting, so their wives stop them and force them to behave. Alan wonders if they always fought in the past, so Hilda reveals that they're both hotheads who used to fight each other all the time, but having children has made them both softer. Teresa reveals that the four of them are childhood friends, and they all moved to the village, where they worked together to build their houses. After that, Jirga learns that the Order of Knights is coming to see Krenna, so they return to the commoner village. Dagora wonders what Alan is doing there, since talentless losers aren't supposed to be there, but Krenna defends him, so Dagora reminds her how all of his attributes were E-ranked. Jirga stops her as she tries to fight him, but the knights suddenly arrive, and the villagers recognize the captain Zenith. He tells the chief to show him their sword lord, so he calls Krenna, and Alan is glad that she can finally talk to the knights. But Zenith notes that he wants to test her strength in a duel, and Jirga is against it, since he thinks she's too young for a real fight. Zenith wonders if they're lying about her talent, and threatens to execute her if she doesn't accept the duel, so everyone is worried. But she becomes excited when she sees a sword, and realizes that she gets to wield it if she accepts the duel, so she decides to go for it. Everyone watches as the Vice Captain Labrin prepares to take her on, and she immediately charges in, but he parries her attacks. Dagora is amazed that she can wield a real sword, since it's almost as tall as her, but Alan isn't sure if she can win against a knight. Labrin kicks her away, and Jirga tries to stop the fight, but the other knights restrain him, and Alan realizes that Labrin has the advantage in both skill and level. But Krenna gets back up, and Labrin freaks out as he sees her exuding an aura, since he knows that she's using an extra skill. He gets pushed back as she starts attacking him again, and he tries to defend himself, but she cuts his sword in half. Zenith announces her as the winner, and she thanks Labrin for fighting her, but he can't believe he lost to a girl. Jirga praises her, and Zenith realizes that she broke her sword, so he thinks there's no way she's faking her talent, and he apologizes for being rude. He admits that Krenna's talent is amazing, so he wants to discuss her future with Jirga, and tells him he can bring his friends along. They sit together at the village chief's house, and we see that Jirga brought Alan and Rodin with him, but Alan wonders why Dagora and his father are also there. Zenith reveals that he was sent there to check if Krenna was the real deal, and he tells the chief that their village will be named after her, since the Baron wants to honor her. He explains that 3 years ago, there was a sword lord born into a noble family, but he failed to meet the expectations, so the authorities appraised him again, and they realized that he only had the talent to become an ordinary swordsman, discovering that several nobles exaggerated their talents, which is why the kingdom wanted to test Krenna. He apologizes to Jirga for his actions, and tells him to help her develop her talents, so that she can attend the academy when she turns 12. Dagora also wants to enter the academy, and Krenna tells Alan to join them, but Dagora thinks he doesn't have a future since he has no talent, so Krenna tells him he's wrong about Alan. Jirga introduces Rodin to Zenith, who recognizes him as the boar hunter, and he reveals that he respects him since he's a village legend. He notes that the Baron is fond of the great boar meat, which is being supplied to him by the village every winter, and Zenith knows that it's a dangerous job, so he calls him a hero, and Alan realizes his father is famous. After that, everyone makes their way home, and Rodin tells Alan that even serfs can be recognized by nobles, so they should continue to do their jobs with pride. After some time, we see that Alan is happy since he finally leveled up his summon skill, and he notices that he now has the enhance ability, which allows him to strengthen his monsters. We learn that he's also unlocked F-ranked creatures, but he still needs to fuse them to get new cards, and he's excited to see what he'll get next. He realizes that his card inventory has also gone up from 20 to 30, which means he can add more buffs, and he's excited to continue experimenting with his skills. That evening, we see that Teresa is pregnant again, and Mash wonders if it's a boy, but she thinks it's a girl since it doesn't kick very hard, and Rodin wonders what he should name it, but she reminds him that he promised to let her name their daughter. Alan notices that the scar on Rodin's arm has disappeared, so he explains that it's because he passed a trial of the gods, but Alan doesn't know what it is. So Rodin explains that it's a special moment that happens when they hunt, and notes that it gives them a sudden burst of energy, which cures all wounds and exhaustion. Alan finds it interesting, since he thinks it's like leveling up, and he believes that Rodin's level must be pretty high, since he's been hunting boars for years. Alan realizes that he's still at level 1, since he's never fought any monsters before, but he knows that serfs can't leave the village without permission, unless they need to go hunting. So he tells his father he wants to join a hunt, but Rodin is against it, since it's dangerous. As Alan prepares to go to bed, he receives a message from the devs, which mentions that they have fixed the glitch he complained about from the appraisal ceremony. He sees an attachment that contains his actual stats, and realizes he's as talented as Krenna, but his attributes are different since he's a summoner. He uses his enhanced skill on Denka, which strengthens its stats, but he realizes that it doesn't affect its buffs. He decides to summon it, and notices that its size didn't change, but Teresa panics as she sees it, and she crushes it once again. The next day, Rodin leaves to go hunting, and as Alan does the laundry, he tries a new fusion combination, which allows him to unlock the grass card. He's happy since it boosts his MP, and he summons it to see what it looks like, but he's surprised that it's an apple. He decides to name it Oppo, and realizes it isn't made for fighting, but he notices that it has an ability called Aroma. He orders Oppo to use it, so it buries itself in the ground and transforms into a sapling, which smells like an essential oil, but he sees his mother approaching. So he orders it to turn back into a card, but it doesn't work, and she mentions that it smells nice, but he wonders if giving off a scent is all it can do. When Alan fights Krenna again, he's still no match for her, but she tells him he's gotten better. So he checks his stats, and realizes that his sword mastery has reached level 3, but he thinks he's also stronger because of his new buffs. After that, Alan throws rocks at a tree, since he wants to level up his other skills, but he realizes that nothing's happening, so he thinks he's just wasting his time. He sees Mash looking at the saplings he summoned, and we learn that it allows him to recover his mana faster, so he can cast more spells each day. At night, we see the serfs carrying Rodin home, but his family realizes he's injured. Jurga reveals that they used a healing herb to keep him alive, but Teresa wonders how he got it, since she knows that it's expensive. So he reveals that he used the gold coins Zenith gave him, and the hunters blame the commoners for what happened, but Mash is woken up and starts to cry. Jurga tells them to leave, since Rodin's family needs a moment of peace, and Alan wonders why they're blaming the commoners. So he reveals that the chief summoned the serfs a few days ago, and told them to let the commoners join the hunt, since they wanted to get a share of the meat. They heard about how Zenith called Rodin a hero, so they thought they would be safe as long as he was around, but we learned that they were all noobs, and they didn't even take their training seriously. During the hunt, Jurga gave them the easiest task, which was to keep the boar distracted, but they still messed up and ruined the strategy. One of them was about to be killed, so Rodin rushed to protect them, but he ended up getting injured. Jurga reveals that they defeated the boar, so he'll bring Rodin's share over, but Alan thinks about how he hasn't been able to do anything to help his parents. The next day, Rodin finally wakes up, and everyone's glad that he's survived, but Alan realizes that he's done nothing but grind to improve his own stats. He knows that his family is struggling to survive, and he thinks he needs to help them since he's the eldest, but Jurga suddenly arrives, and he gives Rodin his share of the meat. He promises to take care of them, so Rodin can focus on recovering, but Alan asks for permission to take over, since he wants to be the one to keep them safe. He helps the other serfs get water, and they think he can't carry the buckets since they're too heavy, but he easily lifts them, and everyone can't believe how strong he is. He thinks he needs to drop the act, since they're already looking up to Krenna, so it doesn't matter if he draws attention to himself. We learn that he's focused all of his buffs into his physical stats, which is why his strength is ridiculous, but he had to ditch his MP buffs to focus on helping his family. Jurga shows him how to harvest potatoes, telling him he will need to use both hands, but he's able to do it with just one, so Jurga is impressed, and Alan explains it's because he has his father's strength, and continues to harvest the potatoes. He manages to fill 3 bags, but he knows that he needs to give the Baron half of them, and he thinks about how much they will need to survive the winter. The chief suddenly arrives with the commoner who almost died during the hunt, and they give Rodin a basket of fruit, so Teresa thanks them for it. The boy apologizes for screwing up, but Rodin tells him just to be careful next time, and Alan is impressed by how forgiving he is. Teresa scolds the boy for being reckless, and notes that he almost got Rodin killed. But the other serfs are happy that he's recovered, and they immediately invite him to go on another hunt. After that, Alan heads to the field, where he summons his frogs, and we learn that he plans to use them as bait, so that he can catch a bird for dinner. He sees one approaching, but it's not what he expected, since it's big enough to eat him, and as it takes out his frogs, he realizes that it's an alba heron. He isn't sure if he can defeat it, because it's a B-ranked creature, but he knows that his stats have improved, and he isn't afraid to challenge it since he's a hardcore gamer. He rushes forward and smashes it in the head, but it knocks him down, so he summons his dogs to attack it. They manage to bite the alba heron, but it still overpowers them, and Alan realizes that he's gotten weaker, because he loses his buffs when his summons are defeated. He struggles to get back up, and the alba heron tries to finish him off, so he wonders if he's really about to die. He quickly summons his worms to drain its energy, and while his dogs distract it, he manages to hit it in the head and take it out. He gains 100 XP for defeating it, so he celebrates his victory, and notes that he felt thrilled while he was fighting it. Alan returns home with the alba heron, and tells everyone he defeated it with a surprise attack, but Rodin notices the cut on his cheek. Jurga teaches Alan how to drain the alba heron's blood, and explains that it weighs 100 pounds, but it drops to 40 after it's dried out. He tells Alan they need to give 60% of it to the upper class as tax, and he takes a magic stone from its body, telling Alan they also need to give it to the nobles. But Jurga knows that he's too young to be hunting monsters, and thinks they can use that to negotiate a bigger cut. They visit the chief, where Jurga tells him how Alan defeated the alba heron, and notes that they'll give him its wings as the tax. Jurga asks him if they can keep the rest, but he explains that the Baron demands more meat this year, and Alan thinks it's the reason why he sent commoners to join the hunt. Jurga offers to give him the magic stone in exchange for the meat, and he starts putting on an act, telling him Alan will starve to death during the winter, since Rodin is still in no condition to hunt. The chief knows he's the reason why Rodin was injured, so he allows them to keep the rest of the alba heron, and Alan thanks him for his generosity. But he wonders if the chief will extend his consideration to the ones they'll hunt in the future, and Jurga notes that alba herons are hard to defeat, so the chief accepts Alan's proposal, and they're glad that their plan worked. After that, Alan returns to the field, where he uses his frogs to lure in more alba herons, and he gets his worms and dogs to jump them the moment they land, giving him the chance to easily finish them off. He gains 200 XP for defeating them, and his book tells him he has leveled up, so he orders it to show him his stats. He realizes that his HP and MP have recovered, but he thinks he doesn't get the full benefits of leveling up, since his stats didn't increase as much as they're supposed to. But he's still satisfied with his growth, and he's glad that he finally leveled up after 6 years, thinking it's time to tell his family the truth. Alan returns with the alba herons, and Rodin is impressed that he was able to defeat 2 more of them, but he realizes that it's time to train with Krenna. He fights her as he thinks about how he can reach level 3, but she catches him off guard, and she leaves him with a huge bump on his head. At night, Alan tells his parents he's an oracle from God, and notes that Elm blessed him with power and wisdom, which is why he's stronger and smarter than the other kids. But he reveals that Elm warned him that he would face trials that even 100 men can't accomplish, so his parents become worried. Rodin knows that he completed a trial of the gods, since the cut on his cheek disappeared, but Teresa wonders why his results from the appraisal ceremony were so bad. So he tells them it's because he grows slower than the other kids, and explains that the officials thought he had no talent, since the one he has is too new to be recognized. Rodin wonders what kind of talent he has, but he pretends that he doesn't know, since he thinks people might get the wrong idea if they learn about how his skills work. Rodin asks him what he plans to do next, so he explains that he'll grind to pass the trials of the gods, and Rodin promises to help him if he runs into trouble. But he tells Alan to keep his talent a secret from the others, since they might think he's a false prophet. During winter, Alan heads to the village with Jurga, who plans to teach him how to trade the alba heron meat. Alan wonders how commoners are different from serfs, so Jurga explains that their 60% tax rule doesn't apply to commoners, who pay a fixed amount of gold each year. Alan wonders how they can become commoners, so he explains that they need to pay 10 gold coins for each person in their family, but there are rumors that barons can also reward them by raising their social standing. They visit a shop, where Jurga teaches him how to trade, and they gather the supplies they need to survive the winter. The next day, Alan returns to the village alone, since he wants to gather information, and he asks for the price of items as he trades with the merchants. He realizes that a bundle of albaharan jerky trades for a silver coin, and since gold is worth 100 silver, he would need to hunt 500 albaharans to raise his family's social standing. Alan visits a store with healing herbs, but he can't find the one Jurga used to save Rodin, so he asks the shopkeeper about the Mueller's flour. He explains that he doesn't sell them, since he's still frustrated about the one he sold to Jurga, so Alan asks him what happened. He reveals that Jurga asked for his best medicine, so he explained that it was worth 5 gold, but Jurga begged him to sell it for 3, since he needed it to save his friend. He was so persistent that the man just gave it to him, and he paid 3 gold for it, but the man still thinks it was a bad deal, since he lost out in the end, and Alan gives him a bundle of the albaharan jerky for free, since the flour ended up saving his father's life. After that, Alan sees a store that sells expensive items, but Degoras suddenly calls him and tells him the shop belongs to his family. So he prepares to leave, but Degoras suddenly hits him and tells him he can't leave unless he agrees to become his minion. Alan challenges him to a fight, so Degora quickly grabs his club, but Alan is able to dodge his attacks and realizes that he's nothing compared to Krenna, so he rushes forward and disarms him. As he leaves, Alan notes that he'll come back to trade at the store, but Degora is left annoyed since he lost the fight. At night, we see that Rodin has already recovered, which makes Alan happy, but Teresa tells him not to push himself too hard. After some time, we see Degora as he charges at Alan, who easily dodges his attacks, and he wonders why he can't hit him. Krenna teaches Mash how to fight, and he tells Alan that he likes fighting with a stick, so Alan thinks he might have the talent of a spear user. At night, Alan watches Teresa take care of his sister Mila, and Rodin returns home, but they wonder why he's later than usual, so he reveals that he and Jurga were summoned by the chief. He notes that the chief told them to let the commoners join the hunt again, since the Baron wants them to deliver more boars this year, and Jurga explains that more serfs will be recruited if they fail to meet their quota. Alan knows that they might crowd the village, and everyone doesn't want that to happen, so Rodin thinks they need to hunt more often. But Alan explains that even if they meet their quota, the Baron will just keep raising it until it becomes impossible to reach, and they will just end up with more serfs in the village. So he thinks they should just let the commoners join the hunt, and Jurga is against it, since he knows that they're useless. But Alan explains that they just need to be trained, and notes that he was blessed with the wisdom of Elm, so he knows exactly what to do. They meet the other hunters, and Rodin notes that Alan will join them as their strategist, but he won't be fighting. We learn that he couldn't convince Rodin to let him hunt, but he thinks it's okay, as long as he can help train the commoners, since he doesn't want Rodin to get hurt again. They start to move out, and he sees the White Dragon Mountains, where a mythical creature is said to live. They reach the woods, where Rodin tells everyone to take position, so Alan hides behind a tree, and he sees a boar charging in. Jurga and his men stop it with their spears, while Rodin's team holds it in place, and Alan knows that they've been using this tactic to hunt boars for 10 years. But he thinks it was a mistake to let the commoners be the distraction, so he put them on the strike team. He orders them to attack, so they help stab the boar, and they realize they have gotten stronger since they completed a trial of the gods. Alan knows that they gained a lot of XP by defeating the boar, since it's a C-ranked monster, but he realizes that he didn't get anything, since he wasn't part of the battle. After that, we see Alan as he helps the serfs fetch water, and they ask him if he'll join the hunt, so he explains that he'll be there to watch, but notes that he wants to wield a spear. They know that Rodin will never allow it, and one of them reveals that he's a butcher, so Alan tells him he has a job for him. He shows the butcher the albaharans, and offers to give him his share if he cuts them up, since he wants to sell their meat. The butcher thinks it's a great offer, so he agrees to do it, and we learn that Alan decided to hire him, since he knows that the butchers in the town are expensive. We see Alan with the hunters again, and we learn that another batch of commoners has joined the hunt, since he wants them to get stronger. He thinks they can hunt faster if the commoners get stronger, since they'll be able to form another group, but he wonders why the Baron wants more boars, since he doesn't think there's a food shortage. The hunters see a boar approaching, so they stick to the same strategy, and allow the commoners to finish it off. They feel like they completed the trial of the gods again, but we see that Alan has also leveled up, since he summoned Denka and allowed it to get crushed. He realizes that since the boar killed one of his summons, he has become a part of the battle, but he apologizes to Denka as he prays for its soul. After 3 months, we see Alan with Krenna, as they make their way home from the chief's house, and we learn that the chief gave him a gift for helping them reach their quota. Their families have dinner together, and Rodin notes that everything's going well because of Alan's plan, but Jurga notices the liquor, so Alan reveals that the chief gave it to him as a gift. Jurga and Rodin want to drink it, so he reminds them that it belongs to him, but notes that he'll let them have it if they beat him in an arm wrestling contest. He explains that they must let him hunt if he wins, but they're confident that they can beat him, so they accept his conditions. Alan prepares to face Jurga, who thinks Alan doesn't stand a chance, but we learn that he's already at level 6, and he even focused his buffs on attack power. The match begins, and Jurga starts to gain the advantage, but Alan suddenly overpowers him, and ends up winning the game. He realizes that Jurga's attack power is between 150 and 200, and as he locks hands with his father, he realizes that Rodin's hands have calluses because of how hard he works. As the game begins, Alan fights with everything he's got, but Rodin doesn't hold back, and he easily defeats Alan. He realizes that his father's attack power is over 300, and he admits defeat, so Rodin takes the liquor and drinks with Jurga. Alan thinks Rodin's strength is at rank C, and Rodin tells him he isn't weak, but he can't hunt boars until he can beat him. Months later, Alan's summon skill levels up again, and as he checks his stats, he notices that he has unlocked rank E creatures. His card inventory increases by 10, which means he can use more buffs, and he thinks about filling it with E-rank cards, but he notices that he has a new skill called storage. He sees a hole in his book, and realizes that he can put items in it, but he finds it strange, since there's no limit to how many items he can put inside. He knows that in video games, the player obtains items and skills when they become necessary, so he thinks the storage skill must have another function. He tries to create an E-rank insect, but the book tells him he doesn't have enough magic stones, so he returns to his room, and takes one of the stones he's been hiding. He still can't create an E-rank insect, but he throws the stone into his storage, and he finally manages to do it. He realizes it's the true purpose of the storage skill, and he summons his new monster, but he's surprised to see that it's a giant butterfly. He hears Teresa approaching, so he orders the butterfly to hide, and she asks him why he's so noisy. He explains that it's nothing, so she walks away, and he's glad she didn't see anything. After that, Alan summons a saber-tooth, and we learn that it's an E-rank beast, which has a buff that increases his stats by 10. He decides to name it Tama, and tries to fuse it with the butterfly, but nothing happens, and he thinks it's because he needs a magic stone. He throws one into the storage, and he manages to create a bird, but he realizes that he'll need more magic stones to make progress. That evening, Alan asks his parents about the horned rabbits, which dropped the magic stones he used, but Rodin reveals that they no longer head to the village, because the serfs made a ditch to keep them away. The next day, Dagora spars with Krenna, but he's no match for her, and Alan asks Palomas if he knows about magic stones. He reveals that they're embedded close to the monster's hearts, and are mostly used to activate magic tools, telling Alan there are several types of them in the capital. He explains that the D and C rank stones are considered useful, but the E rank ones are trash, and he reveals that they're usually found lying on the ground. He picks up an E rank stone and gives it to Alan, who realizes that he can find them around the village, so he asks the other villagers to help him out. Alan returns to the field, and we see that he has created 5 types of E rank creatures, but he suddenly feels a gust of wind, and his bird warns him he's under attack. A boar suddenly appears, and it knocks him down, so his plant Beansy uses its skill to heal him. It charges at him again, so his butterfly stops it with its sleeping powder, and Tama finishes it off. Another boar rushes toward him, but his stone monster Wally stops it in its tracks, and he thinks his monsters are amazing. We learn that none of it actually happened, since he was just imagining things, but he now knows that each summon type is designed to fulfill a specific role. Insects apply debuffs, while beasts specialize in offense, and birds are made for gathering intel. Grass types have healing abilities, while stone monsters offer protection, and Alan thinks summoners are OP, since they can fulfill every role in a party. The chief tells Rodin and Jurga that the Baron will visit them, since he wants to see how they hunt boars, but Rodin wonders why the chief asked him to bring Alan. The chief explains that they need a tour guide for the Baron, and thinks Alan is perfect for the job, since he's smarter than the other kids. He doesn't want to do it, but he knows that it will take 10 years of hunting before he becomes a commoner, and he recalls that the Baron can elevate his status. After a month, the chief welcomes Baron Gran, who apologizes for increasing the quota for boar meat, since he knows that it made life difficult for the hunters. He explains that it was an order from the king, so he couldn't turn it down, but he blames the Viscount for suggesting it. As they eat, Gran asks the chief about the meat, since it tastes amazing. He struggles to answer the question, so Alan reveals that they used the meat of an albaheron they hunted, and mixed it with a blend of herbs to add flavor. Gran finds him interesting, so he asks the chief about his father's background, but the chief reveals that Alan is from a family of serfs. Gran's daughter Celia can't believe they let a serf join them, but he tells her not to look down on serfs, since they're also members of the fiefdom. Zenith offers to help them reach their quota, since he knows that it's difficult to hunt 20 boars in a year. But Alan explains that it isn't a problem for them, and notes that their performance will convince everyone he's telling the truth. The next day, Gran heads to the forest, where he climbs a watchtower, and Alan shows him the hunters, telling him they made armor using the remains of the boars they hunted. The bait team looks for a boar, as Alan explains that they're lightly equipped, since speed is important for them, but he notes that it may take time before they find a target. Zenith notes that a tutor will be sent to help Krenna, since she's about to take the academy entrance exam, but Alan can't imagine her studying for the test. The bait team returns with a boar, so Jurga and his men use their shields to trap it, while the other hunters stab it with their spears. Rodin calls the long spear team, which attacks the boar from the side, while he stabs its neck to finish it off. Celia passes out as she sees blood, but Gran is impressed by their tactics, and Zenith notes that they fight like warriors. There are 2 more boars that appear, and Zenith orders the knights to help, but Alan tells them not to worry. The hunters split into 2 groups, and work together to defeat the boars, which impresses everyone. Alan notes that they'll have no problem reaching their quota, and Gran believes him, since they were able to defeat 3 boars in one day. He tells Gran he has 2 requests, and notes that the first one is to give them shield walls, since it will help them hunt better. The second request is to let them trade in liquor, and allow its distribution to the serfs, since they're worried that the abundance of boar meat will reduce its value in the village. He explains that exchanging the meat for imported liquor can prevent the market crash, since alcohol isn't available in the village, but Gran wonders why he chose alcohol over other goods. Zenith knows the answer to the question, and explains that the hunters needed to keep their morale high, since they always risk their lives during their hunts. He tells Gran that Alan's requests are reasonable, so he notes that he'll consider them favorably, and praises Alan for doing a good job as their tour guide. After that, Gran summons Rodin and Jurga, and tells them they're amazing hunters, so he decides to reward them by elevating their families to commoner status. Alan is overjoyed hearing this, since he can finally hunt outside the village limits, and he's excited to fight the White Dragon. Gran notes that he'll also give the other veteran hunters the commoner status, and he prepares to end the meeting, but his butler Sebas reminds him that the king wants to learn something from them. Gran explains that the king wants to promote the Krenna village to the rest of the kingdom, so he needs to learn the history behind the boar hunts, but Rodin isn't comfortable with the topic. Jurga reveals that 13 years ago, the serfs from nearby villages developed the land, but after 6 months of hard work, a boar suddenly attacked them and destroyed their crops. They didn't have food for winter, so Rodin convinced them to hunt the boar, and they defeated it using the tools they had. But he ended up losing his friend, and he still blames himself for what happened. Gran apologizes for bringing up such a sensitive topic, but tells Rodin he's the reason why the village has come this far, so he wants to give him another reward. Rodin asks Gran to let Alan work at his estate, so he appoints him as the family's manservant, but we learn that Alan doesn't want it, since he'll end up having less freedom. He thinks about an excuse to get out of the situation, but he sees Rodin crying tears of joy, and he doesn't want to ruin the moment, so he accepts the position. We see Alan as he prepares to leave his home, and he challenges Krenna to have one last duel, so they start to fight. Everyone thinks it's the perfect way for them to say goodbye to each other, but they're surprised to see her struggling against him, because he's moving faster than usual. We learn that he can keep up with her since he focused his buffs on agility, and he knows that she'll head to the academy when she turns 12, so he thinks they may never see each other again. He manages to defeat her, but tells her it's a draw, so they need to settle things when they meet again, and she looks forward to their next duel. Teresa tells him to take care of himself, and Mash starts to cry, but Alan tells him to be strong, since he needs to protect their sister Mila. Everyone bids him farewell, and he thanks them for everything they've done for him, but he sees Degora and Palomas hiding behind a fence. Degora gives him a knife and runs back to Palomas, but he falls over, so everyone laughs at him. Alan leaves with his parents, and Roden explains that the manservant is only the first step for him, telling him he'll go places if he works hard. He rides Gran's carriage, and as the knights take him away, he cries as he realizes that he may never see his parents again. Alan reaches Gran's estate, where he helps Celia pick fruit from a tree, but she realizes it tastes terrible, so she throws it away. She orders him to buy another fruit for her, but a magic ship suddenly appears above them, and he can't believe that magic stones can power up such a huge machine. The next day, Alan wakes up in his room, and notices that it smells amazing because of the plants, but he realizes he's hungry. He joins the others for breakfast, and he meets the head servant Rick, who tells him about the different positions in the estate. He explains that they belong to the lower ranks, but they're still considered part of the family. Alan is surprised to learn about it, and realizes that Roden was happy for him, since he has become a member of Gran's family. As Gran has breakfast in the morning, his wife praises Alan for picking up the basics, and admits that she didn't expect him to do well, since he was raised as a serf. But Gran mentions that Alan has no talent, so Celia looks down on him again, and tells him she's a wizard, while her elder brother is a swordsman. Gran tells her not to brag about talents, and her other brother Thomas suddenly starts to cry, since he's also talentless, so he can't join his siblings in the academy. Gran tells him to cheer up, and explains that he can still attend the Nobles College in the capital, revealing it's where he went since he also had no talent, but it's where he met his wife, who now helps him rule the land. Alan goes out during his free time, and he visits the Adventurers Guild, where he asks the receptionist if he can become an adventurer. He reveals that he's only 8 years old, so she tells him he needs to be at least 12 to register, but he refuses to give up on hunting monsters. He checks out the bounty board, but an adventurer named Raven tells him he isn't in a playground. He promises to leave if Raven tells him about the monsters, so he reveals that their ranks go up the further they are from the town, and notes that the higher ranks live near the White Dragon Mountains. Alan notices the Murdergelsh, which is the monster Mash was named after, and he asks Raven why nobody has hunted it, so he reveals that it's so dangerous that the adventurers avoid it. He tells Alan to leave, but he notes that he has one last question, and he asks Raven about the White Dragon, which has a bounty of 1,000 gold. Raven explains that nobody can defeat it since it's OP, but notes that it's surrounded by huge deposits of mithril, which everyone wants to mine, so the reward just keeps getting higher. His party members invite him to drink with them, and Alan thanks him for sharing information about the monsters, but he just tells Alan to get lost. Alan runs to the gate, where he shows the Grand Emblem to the guard, so the guard allows him to pass. He heads to the forest, where he summons his bird Hawkins, and realizes that it can follow his orders, since it has an intelligence of 150. He summons 5 of them, and orders them to find monsters, so they start to search the area. He also summons Tama, but realizes that he can't order it around, since it only has 28 intelligence. Hawkins leads him to a group of goblins, and one of them sees him, so he summons 10 Tamas, and orders them to attack the goblins. The goblins fight back, so he orders the butterfly to put them to sleep, and he throws a stone at one of them, but he realizes it wasn't enough. The Tamas eliminate them while they're sleeping, and he earns 1000 XP for defeating them, so he thinks he can grind by hunting goblins. He takes their magic stones, and orders his birds to find large groups of goblins, so they continue to scout the area. He summons his Tamas and butterflies to defeat the monsters, and later realizes he was able to level up twice by defeating 80 goblins. He learns that the D-ranked magic stones can't be used to create his E-ranked creatures, so he still needs to keep the E-ranked stones, and he orders his birds to search the area again, but he realizes they can't see at night, so he decides to call it a day. A month later, Alan buys iron balls from a merchant, since he thinks they can do damage if he throws them. We learn that he's now level 12 since he didn't stop grinding, but as he returns home, Sebas suddenly appears before him and tells him they need to talk. Gran asks him what he's been doing during his free time, and explains that he's allowed to do anything, but they're concerned since he always comes home late. He decides to tell them the truth, and admits that he's been killing monsters in the forests, since hunting runs in his blood. Gran understands why he keeps doing it, and Sebas notes that they'll buy horned rabbit meat for 1 silver coin per bundle, which makes him realize he can make money while hunting. After 6 months, we see Alan in the woods, as he thinks about hunting horned rabbits for money, but his birds suddenly return to him, and he realizes they're acting strange. They lead him to Raven's party, and one of them named Rita tells their healer Melcy to escape while she buys time for her. Alan throws an iron ball at one of the goblins, but realizes it isn't strong enough to kill them, and he notices that Raven is injured. He doesn't want the others to see his summons, so he works with Rita to fight the goblins, and we learn that his attack and agility are now over 300, which is why he can defeat D-ranked monsters even by himself. After they take out the goblins, Melcy notes that she can't heal Raven, since she's already low on MP, and Alan knows that he'll die if they don't do anything, so he takes a leaf of life from Beansy. He uses it to heal Raven, who thanks him for saving them, and he mentions that they want to repay him, so Alan tells them not to tell anyone about what he did, and to collect 100 E-ranked stones for him. They wonder why he's interested in the stones, but agree to do it for him anyway, and they bid him farewell. Alan recalls how Roden took a month to recover after Gerda gave him the Mueller's flower, but his leaf of life healed Raven instantly, so he realizes that the healing items work differently. He isn't happy since he only got 160 XP from the battle, and he asks Hawkins why it didn't follow his orders, since he told it to look for horned rabbits. But he realizes it was worried about Raven's party, so it called him when it saw they were in trouble. He can't believe his monsters have feelings, and he apologizes to Hawkins for scolding it, telling it he's glad to have it on his team. We see Alan as he helps Celia reach for a jar of jam, and he wonders why she needs it, so she explains that she wants to bake cookies, since her elder brother will be home next spring. She finally reaches it, but he suddenly loses his balance, and it breaks as they fall to the ground. As Zenith eats with Grant's family, he notes that the Krenna village has met their quota for the boars, which makes Alan happy, but Thomas wonders why they haven't had boar meat this year. Grant tells him not to be selfish, but Alan wonders where all the meat went, and Thomas asks him to hunt white deer. Grant's wife thinks it's too difficult for Alan, because a white deer is a C-ranked monster, but he decides to do it since he enjoys a good challenge. We see Alan in the forest, where Hawkins leads him to a white deer, which has killed a group of goblins. He summons his frogs to provoke it, and it falls into his trap, and he finishes it off with his knife. The guards in Grant's estate panic as they see the white deer approaching, and they wonder how it got there, but they realize that Alan carried it back home. He explains that he hunted it for Thomas, who's happy that they'll have meat for their New Year's party, but Alan doesn't want to hunt it again, since it didn't give him a lot of XP. Grant thinks he must have talent, since he defeated a C-ranked monster by himself, so he decides to look into him again. At night, Sebas tells Alan they've decided to give him the position of huntsman, which is like a hunter employed by the Baron. Sebas explains that huntsmen have two duties, which are to hunt monsters for the family, and protect the people from monster attacks. He tells Alan they'll pay him 100 silver coins a month, so he realizes that they've decided to give him a fixed salary instead of paying per monster, and he knows that a white deer is worth more than that amount. But he accepts the position anyway, since it will give him more time to hunt goblins for XP. He mentions that he's ready to start right away, but Sebas tells him he'll only work as a huntsman once a week, since he's still Celia's manservant. After some time, a magic ship lands on the fiefdom, and Celia greets her elder brother Mile, who's been training at the academy for a year. Alan offers to take his luggage, and Celia introduces him as their new manservant and huntsman, which impresses Mile since he's only about her age. He can tell that Alan is extremely talented, and he gives Celia a gift he bought from the capital, so she promises to treasure it, and tells him she made cookies for him. After that, Alan defeats a giant chicken with his iron ball, and he returns with the monsters he hunted, which makes the head chef happy. Rick notes that Mile and Zenith are having a duel, so Alan decides to watch them, and realizes that they appear to be evenly matched. Zenith ends their duel, and notes that Mile has gotten stronger thanks to his training, but he notices Alan, and challenges him to a sparring match. Zenith gives him his mithril sword, and we learn that Alan's buffs are optimized for hunting, but he's already at level 20, so he thinks he can defeat Mile. He charges in, but Mile blocks his attack and starts to overpower him, as he realizes that Mile is faster and stronger than him. Mile disarms him, so he admits defeat, and realizes he never stood a chance, but Mile praises him for putting up a good fight. His siblings wonder how he got so much stronger, so he explains that he cleared a dungeon over the summer, and notes that he learned from a famous sword lord. Alan realizes that Mile won since he trained at the academy, and he's even playing on normal mode, which allows him to progress 100 times faster. Alan wants to fight him the next time he returns, and he agrees to spar with him again, but asks him to take care of his siblings while he's away. We learn that Alan doesn't like working for Celia, and he wants to make a name for himself so that he can quit being her manservant without putting his dad to shame. A few days later, Milo heads back to the academy, and Alan thinks about clearing a dungeon to get stronger, but he notices Celia crying. Viscount Carnal visits Gran, and Alan gives him his food, but we learn that he's being cautious, since Rick told him that Carnal is Gran's rival. He enjoys the food, and thinks it must be boar meat, but we learn that it's just horned rabbit, since Gran didn't want to waste their boar meat on him. Alan can tell that Gran doesn't like Carnal, since he's the reason why the king increased the quota for boar meat, but it has all been going to the capital. He asks for a second serving, so Alan takes his place, but he knows that Carnal is bullying them. We learn that the White Dragon Mountains lie between Gran and Carnal's regions, and that there are mithril mines in both territories. The dragon has nests on both sides, but it has been active on Gran's side recently, and their economy is suffering since they can't mine mithril. The dragon changes its nest every 100 years, so Carnal's fiefdom also suffered a century ago, but they now have access to the mithril, which is why he feels superior to Gran. Carnal notes that he went there to share the results of his youngest daughter's appraisal ceremony, and reveals that she's talentless. But Alan becomes confused when he notices their reactions, since Carnal seems to be happy, while Gran is upset. They talk about their kids who have talent, and Gran notes that they must fulfill the noble's duty, but Alan has no idea what he's talking about, and wonders why having talent seems to be a bad thing for them. Months later, Alan talks to Raven's party, and asks them about C-ranked monsters, since he plans to hunt farther away from town. We learn that he's already at level 24, so he needs to hunt stronger creatures to level up, but Raven warns him that C-ranked monsters are dangerous. Rita notes that they should go shopping first, and she takes them to an equipment shop, where Alan buys a cape. He heads to a forest, where Hawkins leads him to an orc that's sleeping, so he summons his Thomas to attack it. They manage to wound it, but it starts to fight back, so he orders them to keep attacking. He gains over 1,000 XP for defeating it, and he takes its C-ranked magic stone, thinking it's a good monster to hunt for XP. He's happy since he can now hunt C-ranked monsters without traps, but thinks he needs to grind harder, since he still has a long way to go before he can defeat Mile. Hawkins leads him to a C-ranked armored ant, and he thinks he needs to be careful, since Raven almost died when he got swarmed by them. He summons his Thomas squad, but their attacks have no effect, and the ant takes them out. He orders his butterflies to use their sleeping powder, and he stabs its weak spot, but he still can't pierce through its armor, even though his attack stat is over 400. It starts to move, so he panics and stabs it repeatedly, gaining 3,000 XP for defeating it, but he can't take its magic stone since his sword can't get through its armor. He knows that it gave him more XP than the orc, but it's harder to kill since his physical attacks don't affect it, and he wonders if he can learn magic since his intelligence is over 800. During Alan's first anniversary in the estate, he asks a professor if he has the aptitude to cast spells, so the professor gives him a crystal ball, and explains that it will determine if he can use magic. He puts his hands around it, but nothing happens, so the professor tells him he can't use spells, and he thinks the summoner class is a joke, since he can't do anything with his high intelligence. We see Gran's family enjoying their meal, but the alarm suddenly rings, and Rick reports that a murder gulch is approaching the city. He explains that it will reach the south gate in 2 hours, and Gran calls for Zenith, but Sebas reminds him that the knights are away on a mission, so he thinks they need to contact the adventurers. Alan volunteers to deal with the murder gulch, and Celia tells him he can't abandon his post as manservant, but he reminds her that he's also their family's huntsman. He rushes to the gate, as he recalls that the murder gulch is a B-ranked monster, which has a bounty of 200 gold since the adventurers can't defeat it. The people run for their lives, and the guards prepare to close the gate, but a man begs them to save his wife and daughter, who are stuck in a carriage. Alan sees the murder gulch, and it grabs onto the carriage, but Alan throws his iron ball at its eye, and challenges it to fight him. The guards tell him to escape, but he decides to lure it away instead, and he runs to the woods. He realizes he still has 0 MP, since he spent all of it to farm skill XP, and the monster almost hits him, but he notices that it's smiling at him. He sees that his MP has recovered, so he focuses all of his buffs into agility and endurance, and orders his butterflies to put the monster to sleep, but it destroys all of them. Alan continues to run away, and when he finally loses the monster, he thinks about how his summons are no match for it, but he's glad that he was able to lure it away. He prepares to head back, but the monster finds him, so he runs for his life. After 3 days, Alan finally returns to the city, but a guard realizes he's in terrible condition. He later wakes up, and Celia is glad he's okay, but Sebas asks him if he still remembers everything. He reports the details to Gran, explaining that the monster chased him for 3 days before he returned to the city, and he admits that he wasn't strong enough to defeat it. Zenith praises him for protecting the city while the knights were away, and Gran gives him 10 gold as a reward, but notes that the family he saved sent him another 10 gold, so he realizes he now has enough to buy a mithril sword. Alan cuts down an armored ant, and we see that he's using a mithril sword he bought for 25 gold. He slices through the ant's belly to take its magic stone, and he calls 2 of his Hawkins since he wants to do an experiment. He returns one of them to its card, and puts a fruit in a bag, asking Hawkins to tell him what's inside. It knows the answer since he saw him put a fruit inside it, and when he summons the other one back, it also knows the answer, but when he calls a Hawkin that he had sent on patrol, it doesn't know what's inside the bag. But when he summons another copy, it knows the right answer, so he realizes that a creature can pass down its knowledge to recently summoned copies. Months later, Alan spars with Mile again, and we learn that he's already at level 28, but he still loses the fight. Mile tells him he has improved, but he wonders what Mile learned in the academy, since he still can't catch up to him. After that, Mile learns that Alan fought a murdergelsh, but Celia notes that he just ran away for 3 days, and slept like a baby after he returned. Mile admits that he can't defeat B-ranked monsters either, so Gran tells him he needs to keep training, but a knight suddenly interrupts them, and reports that the white dragon has migrated to the carnal fiefdom. Alan recalls that it's a rank A monster worth 1,000 gold, and Gran orders Zenith to check if they can finally mine mithril again, but Zenith thinks they should find the dragon's new nest before he sends his knights. Mile offers to help clean up the monsters between the city and the mines, but Zenith explains that it's too dangerous, and his mother tells him to focus on his studies instead. Alan knows he can't hunt monsters after the knights clear the area, and he doesn't want to miss out on the chance to gain XP, so he thinks he needs to come up with a plan. The next day, Alan decides to experiment again, and we learn that he obtained the share skill after his summon ability reached level 5. He doesn't know what it does, so he summons Hawkins to give it a try, and he realizes that he can see through its eyes. He orders it to take to the sky, and he's amazed by the wonderful view, as he realizes that he can also hear what Hawkins is hearing. He orders it to use its Hawkeye, and he sees a small beetle in the distance, but he wonders if he can use his ability on multiple creatures at once. He summons Tama and 3 copies of Hawkins, and he realizes he can use share on all of them, but when he tries to use it on 6 creatures at once, his head starts to hurt. He realizes that 5 is his limit, but thinks he can change it by boosting his intelligence, so he adjusts his buffs and tries again. He manages to use the share skill on his 6 summons, so he realizes that his intelligence stat isn't useless after all, and he summons his D-ranked monsters. He notices that most of them have high intelligence, so they'll understand him if he orders them around, and he makes them hunt monsters without him. They see a group of armored ants, and work together to take them down, so he realizes they're strong enough to defeat C-ranked monsters. He learns about their abilities by watching them fight, and he thinks his plant can restore MP, so he uses all of his energy to farm XP. He orders the plant to use its ability, so it turns into a flower and gives him a fruit, which allows him to recover 1,000 MP. We learn that his owl has night vision, while his fish has a buff that improves evasion, and the spider and bear are the perfect tag team, since the bear can attack the enemies as the spider cripples them. He orders his summons to hunt monsters and avoid adventurers, and he thinks his share skill is extremely useful, since it allows him to relax while his summons do the work for him. He suddenly remembers his family, so he orders his bird to check on them, and leaves a gold coin to help them out. He's glad they're doing well, and plans to send more every month, since he wants them to live a good life. After that, Zenith tells Gran that the mines have become a nesting ground for monsters, and the villages that served as refineries were taken over by orcs and goblins. He notes that it will take at least 3 years to clear all of them, but Gran wants to get the closest mine running as soon as possible, so he orders Zenith to do it quickly. He wonders how Karnal is doing, so Zenith reveals that he tried to push ahead with their mining operations, but the dragon burned the miners alive. Gran thinks he might try something since his mines have shut down, so they need to be careful, and Alan realizes that the knights are about to wipe out the monsters. But we see that his summons are hunting while he's at work, and he plans to wipe out the monsters before the knights make their move. Alan orders his bears to attack a goblin village, and we learn that he doesn't want to destroy it since the goblins spawn there. But he thinks he needs to wipe them out, because they will continue to kill humans unless he stops them. The bears start to slaughter them, and the Goblin King prepares to fight, but the bears aren't afraid of him, and they easily defeat him. Alan receives over 40,000 XP for wiping out the goblins, and he thinks about destroying the other villages, since it's a great way to earn XP. Months later, Mile returns home, but Celia realizes he's acting strange, and he challenges Alan to spar with him again. As they prepare to fight, Alan thinks about how he's already 10 years old, so his age no longer restricts his stats, and we learn that he has optimized his buffs for the duel. He immediately charges in, and Mile is amazed by his speed, but he still manages to block his attacks. He starts to overpower Alan, who realizes he's losing because his sword mastery skill is too low, and Mile disarms him, so he admits defeat. Mile praises him for putting up a good fight, and Celia and Thomas think he should teach Alan how to wield a sword, but he tells them he needs to leave to carry out the noble's duty. He explains that he'll set off the next day, but tells them not to worry, since he'll be back in 3 years. Celia is sad since she wants to spend time with him, and Alan recalls Grant's conversation with Carnal, realizing it's the noble's duty they were talking about. Mile prepares to leave, and he bids his family farewell, but before he enters the carriage, he tells Alan to watch over Celia for him. He notes that he needs to bring pride to their family, but as his carriage leaves, Alan wonders why he was trembling. Months later, we see Alan as he prepares to attack an orc settlement, and we learn that he has destroyed all of the goblin villages in the area. He orders his monsters to attack, and the bears take down the orcs, but the archers try to shoot him down, so his minion Brawn protects him with its shield. He summons his spiders to restrain the archers, and he watches the orcs as they clash with the bears, but he suddenly sees a fireball approaching, so he gets his bronze to shield him. He sees orc mages from a distance, and they blast his minions with their spells, so he throws his iron ball, which instantly kills one of them. He prepares to attack the others, but they suddenly disappear, and one of them tells the Orc King about the invasion. Hundreds of orcs march toward Alan, who thinks he can take them on, so he orders his bears to attack. They push the orcs back, but the Orc King suddenly joins the fight, and it slices through the bears. He realizes his bears are no match for it since it's a B-ranked creature, and he continues to summon bears, but it kills all of them in one hit. He starts to panic, since he knows he can't defeat it, and a mage launches a fireball, so his bronze protect him again, but they disappear as they run out of HP. The mage summons another fireball, so his bears cover him, but he still gets blown away. He realizes he can't win the battle, but Zenith suddenly arrives, and Alan wonders what he's doing there, so he reveals that he went there since he saw smoke from a distance. Alan doesn't want him to learn about his powers, so he recalls his bears, but Zenith heads straight for the Orc King, and Alan wonders why he didn't say anything about his summons. He tells Labran to deal with the other orcs, and the Orc King smashes him with its axe, but he easily blocks the attack. Labran reveals that he's known as the War Demon, because his strength is unmatched on the battlefield, and the Orc King continues to attack him, but he parries all of its blows. Labran sees the orc mages, and he uses his skill to pierce through one of them, but the other one launches a fireball, so he slices it in half. The orcs gang up on him, but he easily cuts them down, and Alan wonders how he lost to Krenna, since his skills are insane. The Orc King smashes the ground, but Zenith suddenly disappears, and it realizes he's up in the sky. He slices it in half, and Alan can't believe he defeated a B-ranked monster in one hit. Alan has dinner with the knights, and Zenith knows he destroyed the goblin villages with his talent, asking him if the bears in the orc village belong to him. He realizes his cover has been blown, so he admits that Zenith is right, but refuses to say anything else since he might get into trouble. But Zenith reveals that Grant already knows he has a talent, and notes that it's the reason he made him a huntsman. As Alan cleans Zenith's back, Zenith promises not to tell Grant about his powers, but he must tell the knights about his monster hunts, since their goals are the same. Alan accepts the deal, but wonders how he's still alive, since his battle scars are so severe that they don't disappear when he levels up. 2 weeks later, Alan destroys an orc village without help, and we learn that he came up with a strategy where his bears attack the orcs from all sides, preventing them from getting into formation. He earns over 300,000 XP for wiping out the orcs, which is 7 times what he gets when he destroys a goblin village, and he's glad he learned from his past mistakes. Months later, a royal messenger visits Gran's family and gives them Miles's diary, revealing that he's been laid to rest. Gran can't believe he died in just 6 months and accuses the army of using him like fodder, but the messenger asks him if he wants the king to learn about his thoughts. After the messenger leaves, Miles's mother starts to cry, and Alan realizes that he was trembling since he knew he was going to die. Celia asks her father what happened, so he tells everyone to leave the room, and he explains the noble's duty to her. He notes that he already knew Miles was going to die because of it, but she wonders if it's the only reason they're alive, and she suddenly runs off. We see Alan as he eats with Rick, who reveals that Gran's parents and elder brother died at a young age because they were forced to fulfill the noble's duty, but everyone panics when they learn that Celia is missing. Alan realizes she escaped through the window, so he tells Gran he'll look for her outside, and he's determined to find her since she might do something dangerous. Celia hides in an alley where she mourns for Miles, but Alan finds her with his owl, and she wonders if he has come to take her home. He explains that he's just there to do his job as her manservant and realizes she's hungry, so he gives her food. She starts to cry because she doesn't want to die just to fulfill the noble's duty, and he asks her if she wants to join him and become an adventurer when she turns 12. She explains that she needs to enroll in the academy, but he tells her she's free to choose how she wants to live her life, and she recalls that in Miles's diary, he mentioned that he chose to fulfill the noble's duty. She tells him she wants to go home, but notes that her legs hurt, so he carries her back, and her family is glad she returned. Gran tells her not to worry, since they'll be able to mine mithril once the mines are cleared, and he plans to gift the mining rights to the royal family so that she'll be exempt from the noble's duty. Alan realizes it's the reason he's in a rush to get the mines running, but she explains that she has decided to follow Miles's footsteps, so she'll serve the noble's duty. 6 months later, we see Alan as he gets a B-ranked magic stone from an orc king, and we learn that he has wiped out the orc villages for the knights. Zenith tells Gran they can start mining by summer, which puts his mind at ease, but he's worried that Carl might try something since he lost his mithril. Alan climbs the White Dragon Mountains, and we learn that Celia wanted to go with him, but her father didn't allow her. Alan sees an armored ant nest, and knows that over 1,000 soldiers are protecting their queen. But he wonders how he's supposed to check what's inside, since the entrance is just big enough for an ant to pass through. He decides to just wing it, and he summons his monsters to attack, so the ants rush outside, but his bears fight them head-on. After a month, we see that Alan is exhausted, since he still can't wipe out the ant colony, even though he has already defeated thousands of ants. He wonders if he should change his strategy, and the following month, we see that he still hasn't destroyed the colony, but soldiers suddenly stop coming out of their nest. He realizes his persistence has paid off, and he summons his owls to check the nest, but realizes it's like a huge maze, and one of them gets ambushed by ants. He sends another owl, and it sees the egg chamber, but he still can't find the queen, and he's tired since he's controlling 8 owls at once. The day is about to end, so he thinks about going home, but he finally finds the queen, so he enters the nest with his bears. He realizes that the queen is huge, but he isn't afraid of it, and he orders his bears to attack. They take down its guards and bite into its body, so it tries to fight back, but she gets overwhelmed by their numbers. They celebrate their victory, but Alan wonders why it only took 20 of them to take it down, since he needed 100 to defeat the Orc King. He thinks the queen got weaker after it gave birth to the soldiers, but he knows it's getting late, so he decides to camp for the night. He looks for something to prove that he cleared the nest, and he sees mithril ore, so he decides to take it home. The next day, Alan returns with the queen's exoskeleton, but Gran and Zenith aren't sure if it's real, since they've never seen a queen before. Zenith notes that the knights can't destroy an ant colony, since their nests are filled with thousands of soldiers, and it's even built like a maze. They don't know if Alan is telling the truth, but he shows them the mithril ores he found, and they know it's the real deal, so they tell him to give them all the details. He shows them where he found the nest, and even gives them a map of its interior, so Zenith notes that he'll send his knights to check it out. Gran praises Alan for doing a good job, and tells him he has discovered a new vein of mithril, so he'll get 30% of the mining rights. He isn't sure what it means, but Sebas tells him he'll understand the benefits after a few years, and he feels like it's a huge deal. Alan turns 12, and we see that the mithril mines are running again, but they still haven't worked on the vein he discovered. He thinks everything's going well for him, but he doesn't like staying in his comfort zone, since he's a hardcore gamer. The royal messenger visits Gran again, and Alan sees that Carnal is with him, so he thinks they're up to something. They give Gran a proposal, but he thinks it's ridiculous, since they want him to co-manage the mining operations and split the profits with Carnal. The messenger explains that he's just waiting for Gran's signature, since he already got the other officials to sign it, but Gran notes that he must check the situation in the capital first. The messenger becomes angry hearing this, and after he walks away with Carnal, Gran tells Sebas they must head to the capital once Zenith returns. After that, the chef thinks they should consider the contract, but Rick knows they can't trust Carnal. Alan agrees with him, but knows that everyone will think they're greedy if they don't sign the contract, so he wonders how Gran should handle the situation. They suddenly hear a commotion, so Alan rushes to Celia's room, and he realizes she's being kidnapped. He charges at the kidnappers, but one of them throws a smoke bomb, which causes him to pass out. When Alan wakes up, he realizes he's tied up with Celia, but he summons his birds, and he sees the kidnappers who took them away. Their leader Dogra asks them why they also took Alan, so one of them named Marcus explains that they can sell him for a high price, since he knows how to wield a sword. Dogra hits him and tells him to stick to his orders, and he wants them to kill Alan if he causes any problems. After Dogra leaves, Marcus wonders why their boss made Dogra their leader, so his friends tell him it's because he's a pro, and they claim that he's the only one in their team who can beat Zenith. They talk about how Zenith lost his squad in a battle, so Alan realizes there really is a war, and he thinks about escaping. But he realizes he dropped his mithril sword, so he doesn't think he can beat the kidnappers. He uses his bird to look around, but realizes they're on a magic ship, and he wonders how they're supposed to escape in midair. He sees people at the diner, but he notices Carnal, and realizes he worked with the messenger to kidnap Celia, since they want to use her as a bargaining chip. She wakes up and starts to panic, so the kidnappers think about hitting her to keep her silent, but Alan summons his butterfly to put one of them to sleep. The other one cuts it down, but Alan breaks free while they're distracted, and he prepares to take them on. He summons his other monsters, which surprises them, and he uses the chance to knock them both out. He goes to free Celia, but Dogra suddenly returns, and he knocks Alan back in an instant. He prepares to finish him off, but Alan uses his bird to distract Dogra, and he gets his spider to bind him. He quickly runs away with Celia, getting his brawn to hold the line, and he realizes they're getting close to the ground. He thinks he can make the jump, and Celia panics, but Alan puts all his stats into endurance, and he manages to survive the landing. Celia starts asking him about the monsters she saw, and how he's so strong, but he tells her they need to go. He sends his elves to scout for him, and he sees that Dogra is coming after him, so he starts zigzagging around the city. He realizes that Dogra can track his footprints, so he starts running on the roofs to get away. They make it to the edge of the city, and they continue by using his bronze so they don't leave any footprints. They camp out in the forest, and Celia asks Alan about why he kept his talent a secret, so he notes he knew nothing good would come from revealing it. They continue running the next day, and Alan sees that Dogra is still at the city, but he starts running in a circle, and Alan realizes that his footprint will eventually be found, so he starts running through the air again. After running for 2 days, they finally make it back to a Granville checkpoint. The guards are relieved to see them, and prepare to organize a carriage, but Alan suddenly sees that Dogra found his footprints, so he quickly keeps running. Celia thinks they should stay with the guards, but Alan tells her that they aren't strong enough to stop him. Celia thinks he should leave her behind to save himself, but he tells her that he promised Mile he would keep her safe. After running for another day, Alan thinks they'll be able to make it to Granville, but the Murdergelsh suddenly starts to chase them as well. Alan realizes he can't outrun it, so he decides that he needs to defeat it. He goes all out right away, using his spiders to bind it, and sending his bears to attack, but when he throws his iron ball, it manages to block it. The Murdergelsh destroys all his summons, and suddenly grabs onto him, so he quickly spams his leaves to heal, but the Murdergelsh decides to eat him. Celia is devastated seeing this, but we learn that Alan swapped all his stats into HP, and he stabs the Murdergelsh in the eye. He feels the rush that he used to feel in his games, and he finally finishes it off. He celebrates his victory, and Celia rushes to his side, but they see that Dogra has caught up to them. Alan tells Celia he will hold him off, but Dogra instantly knocks him down, and Alan can't believe he couldn't even see Dogra's move. Dogra prepares to finish him off, but Celia suddenly shoots a fireball. Alan is surprised, but as she tries to attack again, Dogra just slaps her down. Alan calls him a loser, revealing that he heard him talking on the ship, so he knows that Dogra was a coward who ran away from the war, and now he's just bullying kids. Dogra gets angry hearing this and starts beating him up, stomping on his body. He prepares to finish him off, but Alan smiles, and we see that he was stalling while his bird went to get Zenith. Dogra calls the knights dogs for the nobles, revealing that his brothers died because the knights couldn't keep it together, and he charges into attack, but Zenith just tanks it, and he notes that he also lost his brothers protecting the kingdom, so he won't allow them to be dishonored, and he wipes Dogra out with a single hit. Celia finally makes it back to her father, and after that, Alan explains how Carnal was behind the kidnapping, because after losing his mithril mines, he colluded with the royal messenger to get half of Granza's, and the kidnapping was to force him to sign the contract without letting the king know. After that, Carnal is reported to the king, and his fiefdom ends up being dissolved. Alan is also given a chance to learn about the noble's duty, where they are shown a map of the world. They live on the central continent, but to the north, there appeared the demon lord 100 years ago, demanding that every kingdom submit to him, and after everyone rejected him, he launched a massive attack with millions of monsters. The 5 continents formed an alliance to fight against the demon lord, leading to the establishment of the academy in each country, where every child that has a talent is trained and then sent to the front lines. But it wasn't enough, and the demon lord's army continued to take over, but a boy with the hero talent was born, and he was able to turn the tide of the battle, pushing the demons back, but there are still many who die, and the noble's duty is actually conscription of any noble born with a talent, where they need to serve in the military for 3 years, and Alan finally realizes the reason his village had to hunt so many boars was to feed the army. After that, we see Gran rewarding Alan for saving Celia and killing the Murdergelsh, but he wonders why there are 3 bags. Gran reveals he tried to get Celia pardoned from her military service, but since she has the talent of a wizardess, she's too valuable to be overlooked, so he asks Alan to accompany her to the academy, and then act as her bodyguard during her time on the front lines, since he knows Alan has some kind of special talent. He begs for Alan's help, so Alan reveals himself as a summoner, which will eventually become the strongest class, and he asks for 2 things instead of the gold. The first is for his family to be exempt from the taxes, and the second is to no longer be a manservant. Gran agrees to his request and gives him a sword, revealing that he was promoted to a viscount, and he knows it was enlarged thanks to Alan's contributions, so the sword represents being his guest now, and that the Granville family will always stand on his side. Alan realizes it's the end of the chapter of this part of his story, and he thinks about everything that he went through. He always wondered why he was reincarnated as a serf, but he now realizes it was all so that he could gain the experiences that he's had, so that he can go on to restore the balance in the world. Alan returns to his family, and his parents are happy to see him, telling him it's been 4 years since they last saw him. He realizes his siblings have grown a lot, but notices that Mila is afraid of him, and Roden explains that she doesn't remember him, since she was just a baby when he left their village. He reveals that he's no longer Gran's manservant, and he'll soon be attending the academy, so it will be harder for him to send money. But he gives his parents 100 gold, and tells them he still has 600 in his savings, since he was able to make a lot from hunting monsters. He tells Mash about his adventures, and his parents realize he hasn't changed at all, since he's still amazing. As he prepares to leave, Mila asks him if he was the one who sent her letters, so he tells her he sent them since he couldn't spend time with her. Everyone hugs him and tells him to take care of himself, since they don't want anything to happen to him, and they all see him off. Alan returns to Gran's estate, where Celia asks him why he wants to join her in the academy and fight in the war, since the noble's duty doesn't apply to him, but he lies that he was hired to do it. Krenna and Dagora suddenly join them, and Alan wonders if they're ready for the exam, so Krenna explains that they've been training hard, but he tells her it's a written test, and he realizes she didn't study for it. Gran prepares a feast to welcome Krenna and Dagora to his home, but they immediately start eating like pigs, and he finds them amusing. Alan takes them to their room, and they're both excited to attend the academy, so Celia wonders if he didn't tell them about the war. He explains that he won't do it until the time is right, but notes that they deserve to know about the war, since they'll be risking their lives. We learn that Krenna will become a baron after she graduates, which will push her into the war, but Dagora's future is still uncertain, since his talent is nothing special. 3 days later, Alan's group leaves for the academy, and everyone bids them farewell. They ride a magic ship, which takes them to the academy city, and they realize thousands of kids are also there for the entrance exam. A girl tells them to go through the appraisal ceremony before the exam, so Dagora activates the crystal ball, and she tells him he's qualified to take the test because he has decent stats. He's sad since his stats haven't changed at all, but Alan knows that the ranks don't change based on age or level, because they only reflect how fast their stats grow. Celia also takes the appraisal ceremony, and Alan is impressed, since she has S-ranked intelligence. When it's Krenna's turn, the ball glows intensely as it displays her stats, and the girl is amazed to learn that she's a sword lord. Celia is excited to see Alan's stats, and as he activates the ball, a blinding flash of light attracts everyone's attention, but the girl is surprised to learn that his stats are trash. He realizes the text glitch has been fixed, so everyone now knows he's a summoner, but his stats are still E-ranked since he's playing on Hell mode. The girl tells him he has failed, but Krenna and Celia start to argue with her, so a man asks them what's wrong. He checks Alan's stats, but the headmaster thinks he's the boy mentioned in a prophecy, since all of his stats are rank E. As the headmaster calls the man by his name Helmius, Alan and his friends realize he's the hero who fought off the demons, but they wonder what he's doing there. He uses his appraisal skill to check Alan's real stats, and realizes it's impressive, but he doesn't have any magic skills. He thinks the crystal ball didn't work properly, and allows Alan to take the exam, under the condition that he shows everyone what a summoner can do. He refuses to do it unless Helmius shows him his stats, so he activates the crystal ball, and everyone realizes his stats are insane. He tells Alan it's his turn, so he summons his mouse, and everyone's amazed since they've never seen anything like it. He passes the screening test, and heads to a classroom, where he takes the entrance exam with his friends. Everyone checks the results, and Alan and his friends are glad they all passed, but Celia is upset, because even though she got an A, Alan still did better since he scored an S. They receive their uniforms, and Celia wonders if they should stay at the dorms, but Alan tells her they should rent a house instead. They head to the Adventurers Guild, since they know the students are required to have adventurer cards. A receptionist tells them the dungeons in the city are separated by difficulty, and reveals that the last floor always has a treasure chest, which might contain a rare item. Alan asks her to put in a request for the guild, and offers to pay 100 gold to the person who gives him 10,000 D-ranked magic stones, since he wants to have 2 million of them by the time he graduates. She tells him to be back after a week, and gives everyone their adventurer cards, telling them they'll start from rank E, and they decide to register as a party. They see a huge house, and we learn that in the Academy City, it's normal for houses to be that massive, because parties of 10 to 20 usually live together. They decide to call it their home, and Alan tells Dagora and Krenna about the Demon Lord, explaining that he and Celia will fight the demons after they graduate. He explains that half of the people sent there don't make it back alive, but Krenna still decides to join them, and Dagora also decides to fight by their side, since he wants to bring honor to his family. His book suddenly appears, and it mentions that they have joined his party, but he realizes they can also see it. He tells them they need to get stronger to defeat the Demon Lord, but notes that his skills develop 100 times slower than usual, which is why he needs a lot of magic stones and MP to pass his trials. The next day, we see Alan and his friends in their classroom, where their teacher Karlov tells them to forget about their social status, since talent is the only thing that matters in the academy. We learn that they have 4 school days a week, and their afternoon classes are dedicated to developing their talents. But since Alan is the only summoner in the academy, the teachers allow him to use his time freely. During their day off, Alan and his friends decide to enter a dungeon, but they can't believe the entrance is in the middle of the town. They realize it looks like a normal building, but as they enter a room, a system suddenly greets them and tells them they're in a C-rank dungeon, which is considered the easiest difficulty. It explains that it will send them to another dimension, where the other adventurers can't join them, so Alan realizes he can go all out, since he doesn't need to worry about other people seeing his skills. As they enter the dungeon, they realize it's like a maze, so Alan summons Hawkins to scout the area. He notes that the monsters on the first floor aren't worth their time, since they won't drop a lot of XP, and he explains that he wants to clear the dungeon as fast as possible, so that they can move to B-rank dungeons. He becomes excited as he checks his friend's stats, but they see a slime approaching, so Celia blasts it with her fireball. Krenna and Dagora think her magic is amazing, but Alan tells them they also have skills, and he shows them their stats, but they don't know how their skills work. They reach the end of the level, and the system takes them to the second floor, telling them their progress has been saved, so they can start from there when they return. They call it a day, and they're exhausted since it took them 10 hours to clear the first floor, but they decide to spend all of their days off in the dungeon. Alan realizes the system resets the dungeon whenever they enter, so he orders his summons to hunt monsters while he's in class, which allows him to earn 200 magic stones a day. On their 5th day, they finally reach the boss on the last floor, and Alan's friends tell him to take care of it, so he summons his bronze to stop the boss and his minions, while his bears rip them to shreds. His friends are amazed by his powers, and they see the treasure chest, which contains a steel sword. They return to the Adventurers Guild, where they sell the sword for 2 gold, and the receptionist tells them their adventurer cards have been upgraded to rank D, since they were able to clear the dungeon. After that, Karlov tells his students they'll be expelled if they don't clear a dungeon in 3 months, and he tells them to take it seriously, since a lot of people die in dungeons every year. Everyone starts to look for party members, but Alan finds them amusing since they're asking random people to join their parties, and he decides to show them how it's done. He tells them his party is looking for a healer, and notes that there's no reason to doubt their skills, since they have already cleared a C-rank dungeon. He notes that they need someone available to join them twice a week, and explains that since they're a small party, they make a lot of money when they split the profits. We see Alan and his friends eating at the canteen, when a boy named Keel asks them if he can join their party. He reveals that he's a cleric, and Alan wants to befriend him, because he knows most of the healers have already been taken in by the church. He tells Keel to sit with them, but realizes he only has drinks, so he decides to buy him a meal. Keel gobbles up his food, so Alan realizes he's hungry, but he didn't buy anything since he's broke. Alan tells him he can make money by joining them, so he decides to serve as their healer on a trial basis, and everyone looks forward to working with him. They head to the dungeon, where Krenna defeats a goblin, and Keel wonders why he leveled up, since he didn't do anything during the fight, so Alan explains it's because they're in the same party. They reach the dungeon boss, and Alan tells his friends to take care of it, so Krenna and Dagora cut down its minions, while Celia attacks with her fireballs. The boss attacks Keel with its magic blast, but Braun protects him, and Krenna kills it in 1 hit. They realize the fight is over, but Dagora mentions he's injured, so Keel heals him. Alan wonders how he learned healing magic, so he reveals that he used to help wounded people in the church for 10 silver coins a day, and Krenna is jealous since he knows how to use skills. They see a treasure chest, which contains a mithril buckler, and they sell it for 15 gold. Alan gives Keel his share, and notices he's obsessed with making money, so he invites him to become a regular member of their party, telling him they can get rich together. But Keel turns them down, since he thinks he can earn more if he works with other parties. A month later, Alan is excited since he has finally reached the next milestone, and he realizes he has a new skill called Awaken. We learn that he spent his money in magic stones to level up, so he thinks he has earned it, and he summons his C-rank creatures. He realizes they're all huge, but he combines his bird and fish cards, and unlocks a new type called Spirit. As he summons her, he realizes she can talk to him thanks to her high intelligence, and she asks him to give her a name, so he decides to call her Maria. She phases through the wall, and he thinks her skill will be useful in the dungeon, but he's excited to try his Awakened skill next. He uses it on Denka, allowing it to learn an ability called Swarm, but it suddenly activates, and causes countless Denkas to fill the room. After that, the students gather in an arena, where they see Helmius with the Sword Lords Sylvia and Verd. Karlov wonders if his students have questions for them, so Krenna raises her hand, and asks them how she can learn to use skills. Verd decides to train her, and tells her to attack while she focuses on using her skill, so she charges in, but he easily knocks her down. He tells her to give up, but she's determined to keep going, and Alan realizes she feels left behind, since her friends can already use skills. They keep training for hours, and we see that Krenna is already exhausted, but she gets back up, and notes that she needs to get stronger to catch up to Alan. Verd tells her to attack with everything she's got, so she walks toward him, and finally activates her slash skill, which creates a shockwave as it hits his sword. He tells her to remember how she activated it, but she collapses from exhaustion, so Alan gives her one of his leaves to help her recover. She thanks Vert for his lesson, but Helmius thinks he's insane, since he went hard on a 12-year-old. Alan and his friends return to the dungeon, and he introduces them to Maria, telling them she will serve as their bodyguard. He summons his C-ranked birds, which help them travel faster, and they see an alba heron, so Krenna uses her air slash to cut its head off. After that, Alan and his friends become C-ranked adventurers, and he invites everyone to celebrate, but Keel explains that he can't join them, since he doesn't want to eat while his family is starving. He explains that they moved there after he enrolled in the academy, but they lack connections, so they're struggling to make ends meet. Alan offers to hire everyone in his family as helpers, and explains that they have plenty of rooms in their house, so they can accommodate everyone. Celia notes that they'll share a portion of their earnings with his family, under the condition that he gives all of his magic stones to Alan, since he needs them to level up. Keel can't believe how generous they are, and he accepts their offer, since he wants his family to have a good life. At night, Keel takes his family to Alan's house, and his sister Nina formally introduces herself, as she thanks Alan and his friends for inviting them to their house. They start to eat together, and Celia can tell Nina is a member of nobility because of the way she introduced herself. Keel reveals that they used to be nobles, but their family was stripped of their titles, so they ended up living with their servants who have nowhere to go. Celia reveals that she's also a noble, and notes that she and Alan are from Grand's fiefdom, but Keel and his companions suddenly become nervous. Keel reveals that Carnal is his father, and he blames them for destroying his family, as he notes that a royal messenger told him Gran ruined everything. Celia realizes there's a misunderstanding, so she offers to explain everything, and he makes the rest of his family leave the room. She tells him everything that happened, and notes that his father hired assassins to kidnap her, but she was able to escape thanks to Alan's help. After they made it back, Gran reported everything to the king, which is why Carnal was stripped of his title and sent to jail. She tells Keel to head to the royal capital if he wants evidence, and Alan asks him to tell them about his father. So he reveals that Carnal took care of him until he turned 5, but everything changed after the appraisal ceremony, and he was sent to another town to live as a commoner. Carnal sent a tutor for him when he turned 10, which made him happy, since it made him feel like he was still a part of their family. But his allowance stopped coming after his father was arrested, and Nina showed up with her servants, so he worked as the church's healer to make ends meet. A royal messenger showed up after a couple of months, and told him Gran ruined their family, but he promised Keel his family's nobility would be restored if he would serve in the war for 5 years. He's determined to get stronger, so that he can give his sister a place to call home again, but Alan realizes the royal messenger is manipulating him. He explains that half of the people sent to the front lines die within 3 years, and the survival rate for those who serve for 5 years is even worse, but he knows the royal messenger didn't tell Keel about it. Alan explains that they need to get stronger to defeat the demon lord, and thinks the best way to do it is by working together, so that they can make up for each other's weaknesses. Keel reminds them he's Carnal's son, but they tell him it doesn't matter since they're friends, and Alan tells him he doesn't need to shoulder all the burden himself, so he cries and decides to join them. The group heads to a B-rank dungeon, and Alan's friends drink panacea, since they think the area is full of poison traps. They start to explore the dungeon, and they see a treasure chest, but Celia thinks it's a trap, so Alan orders Maria to check it out. It suddenly opens its mouth, and they realize it's a mimic, so she blasts it with her magic. She manages to defeat it, and Alan admits he's impressed, since she beat a B-ranked monster using only half her MP. They get a mithril halberd, which is worth 50 gold, and they head deeper into the dungeon, but Alan suddenly blacks out. He wakes up and sees his friends, but he has no idea what happened, so Maria explains that he triggered a trap, which knocked him out with sleeping gas. His friends weren't affected since they took panacea, but he wonders how they woke him up, so she reveals that she used garnish on him. He triggers the trap, and realizes it no longer affects him thanks to the garnish, so he decides to experiment. He summons his C-ranked monsters, and realizes it only works on animal-type creatures, but grass and spirit types are immune to its effects. Dagora uses his skill to smash the ground, and he celebrates since he has finally figured out how to do it, telling everyone he wants to try it on monsters. After 2 months, they reach the last floor of the dungeon, and as they enter the boss's room, they see a huge boar, which is a stronger version of the boars the serfs hunted. Alan isn't worried since his friends have gotten stronger, but he realizes they're about to catch up to him since they level up 100 times faster. Keel buffs everyone with his protection spell, and Celia and Alan work together to take out the great boars, while Krenna and Dagora rush toward the boss. They use their skills to knock it down, and Alan tells Krenna it's wide open, so she slashes it in the head to finish it off. Everyone celebrates their victory, and they see a treasure chest, which contains scarletite knuckles. We learn that scarletite is harder than mithril, so the knuckles are worth hundreds of gold, and Keel is excited since he's about to get rich. Alan thinks about how fast his friends are making progress since they're on normal mode, but it only makes him realize how dangerous the Demon Lord's forces are, because even humanity's seasoned fighters are struggling against them. After that, Alan uses his summons to farm gold and magic stones, and his party spends their treasury funds to upgrade their equipment. They pass their exams at the end of the semester, and during their summer break, Alan sends his bird to check on his family. He uses it to talk to them and gives them letters, and they're amazed by his powers, but Mila is sad since she has no talent. He tells her it's fine, since she's in the same boat as their parents, and they reveal that they'll be moving to a new village, where Rodin will serve as their chieftain. After that, the bird flies to Gran's estate, and Alan tells him about Keel's situation. Gran thinks the royal messenger deceived him, because clerics are so valuable on the battlefield that they get exploited and worked to the bone. The nobles do whatever it takes to keep them on the front lines, which is why they don't make it back alive, and Alan doesn't want Keel to die on the battlefield, so he decides to talk to the king about it. Gran tells Alan to let him handle the situation, and explains that he needs to step up, since the royal messenger used his name to manipulate Keel. Alan's party returns to the Adventurers Guild, where the receptionist tells them they've been promoted to rank B, and the other adventurers can't believe it, since they're just kids. She warns them to be careful since A-rank dungeons are dangerous, and suggests that they participate in auctions to earn money and upgrade their gear. Alan asks her if there are MP recovery rings, but she tells him she doesn't know, so he realizes it will be hard to find the item he's looking for. After that, we see Alan and his friends in an A-rank dungeon, where he sends Hawkins to scout the area, but he still can't find the door to the next level, since it's bigger than the lower-ranked dungeons. We learn that they've been sleeping there for 4 days, but they're still stuck on the first floor, and they ride Alan's birds as they continue their journey. They see a group of monsters, so Krenna and Dagora charge in, and they easily defeat them, but a Cyclops suddenly appears out of nowhere. It sends Dagora flying, and he ends up activating a trap, which teleports him away with Celia. Krenna cuts down the Cyclops, and Alan thinks Celia and Dagora are still in the dungeon, so he summons countless Marias to look for them. We see Dagora fighting to protect Celia, but the monsters knock him down, and they're about to get overwhelmed. Maria suddenly arrives, and blasts the monsters with her magic, but she realizes Dagora and Celia are injured, so she gives them healing items to help them recover. She tells them help will arrive soon, but a couple of huge boars suddenly rush toward them, so they prepare to hold out until their friends arrive. We see Alan as he tells the others to hang on tight, and he orders his birds to use their fleet foot, which allows them to travel faster. But he realizes it will still take time before they reach Dagora and Celia, because the dungeon is enormous. A demon smashes Dagora, who struggles to block its attack, but Alan suddenly arrives, and orders his scorpion to paralyze it. Dagora finishes it off, and Alan considers recruiting a scout, since they need someone to counter traps, but his friends are against it. They reach the boss's room, where they see a huge armored monster, and Alan switches up his cards as he prepares to fight. He summons multiple Wallies, which explode as they hit the boss and its minions, but they realize it's still alive. Krenna charges in, but the boss smashes her into the ground, so her friends become worried, but they realize she was able to block it. Dagora and Krenna attack the boss with their skills, while Alan orders his minions to go all out, and the boss crashes to the ground. They see a treasure chest, which contains a scarletite axe, and they decide to give it to Dagora, since his mithril axe needs replacement. The system congratulates them on defeating the boss, and it gives them a card, telling them they can challenge an S-ranked dungeon if they clear 5 A-ranked ones. After their summer break, Alan talks to his classmates, who are surprised to learn that his party cleared an A-ranked dungeon, since even their seniors struggle to do it. Karlov tells Krenna to spar with him, and Alan trains with his classmate Riefel, but a sword fragment suddenly flies toward them. We see that Karlov defeated Krenna, but Riefel is impressed, because she pushed him to his limit. He tells Alan and Krenna the headmaster wants to talk to them, and as they walk down the hallway, Alan tells him about their goal to challenge the S-rank dungeon before they graduate. Karlov notes that they'll make history if they succeed, since Verd is the only one in the kingdom who made it to an S-rank dungeon. They visit the headmaster's office, and he invites Alan and Krenna to participate in the martial arts tournament, telling them the winner gets to fight Verd. Krenna is excited to fight him again, but Alan notes that he isn't interested, since he thinks it's a waste of time, and the headmaster respects his decision. A few days later, Gran visits Alan's party, and he tells Keel and Nina he has talked to the king about their future. He reveals that the messenger lied to them, since the king didn't promise to make them nobles again, but he gives them a box, which contains a contract that will restore their family to good standing. He explains that the condition is that Keel must serve 5 years in the war, and notes that the king has signed it along with the Hamilton family. Riefel reveals that he's there on behalf of his father Count Hamilton, who serves as the liege lord of Gran and Carnal's families, and he notes that the Hamiltons will take care of Keel's family while he serves in the war. Gran notes that the royal messengers who came to speak with him in Keel are both working for the Crown Prince Envel, but there's no evidence that he's related to the scheme, so he can't be punished. Gran explains that Envel could ascend the throne in the next 5 years, and he might not honor the contract, but Keel still decides to sign it, and promises to do his part. The next day, everyone gathers for the martial arts tournament, and Alan sees Envel in the venue. Krenna crushes her opponents, and ends up winning the contest, so Verd prepares to fight her, and tells her to bring it on. She attacks him with everything she's got, but it has no effect, and they both use their slash skill, but he overpowers her and kicks her away. She refuses to give up, and continues to clash with him, but she reaches her limit and collapses. Verd wins the match, but he wants her to get stronger, since he knows her friends need her. After that, Alan uses an item to heal Krenna, and she starts to cry, since she did her best during the fight, but was still no match for Verd. Alan tells her it's fine, and explains that she still has a lot of room to grow, so she'll eventually catch up to Verd. After that, Envel talks to Gran, and reveals that he knows about the contract that will restore the Carnals to nobility. He explains that the Guillemudin Empire is asking for reinforcements, and he thinks about sending Celia, so Gran begs him to reconsider. Envel tells Gran he's in no position to complain, since he's a Fair Alliance supporter, and Envel notes that his Kingdom First faction doesn't want to invest in the war. Alan realizes there are 2 factions in the kingdom, and the first one wants to help get rid of the Demon Lord, while the other one wants to prioritize their own country. Envel reveals that he also has a daughter with talent, so he gives Gran a chance, and promises to spare Celia if he ditches the contract. Alan knows Envel wants to use Keel as his daughter's healer, and Gran is about to give in, but Alan suddenly interrupts him, and he notes that he'll do his best to protect Celia. After 3 months, Alan's party sees a heavy dragon at the end of an A-rank dungeon, and he uses his wallies to bomb it. It awakens from its slumber, and starts to talk to them, but he suddenly bombs it again, so it becomes furious. Celia and Dagora rush in, but their attacks have no effect, and it prepares to breathe fire. Alan summons his Steelies, which protect everyone from the flames, but they still take damage. The Steelies melt away, so Dagora realizes the flames would have burned them to a crisp, and everyone rushes forward. But they realize it's charging up its fire breath, so Alan summons his Steelies again, but it instantly wipes them out. It burns Dagora and Krenna, so Keel heals them, but it prepares to attack again. They realize they're in trouble, but Krenna suddenly starts to glow, and she rushes toward the dragon. She takes the attack head-on, and slices off its arm, as Alan realizes she's using her extra skill called Limit Break, which boosts all of her stats by 3000, and gives her super regeneration. The dragon sends her flying, and prepares to breathe fire again, but she immediately recovers and stabs it in the chest, causing it to explode. She reaches level 60, and Alan realizes he has been left behind, since all of his friends have hit the level cap. Dagora asks him if they're stuck, but he explains that they can still get stronger by learning how to use their extra skills and upgrading their equipment. After their spring break, Alan and his friends start their 2nd year in the academy, and Karlov tells them they have new classmates. 3 students join them in the room, and one of them introduces herself as Sophie, and her bodyguard Valmer reveals that she's next in line for the throne. Everyone's amazed to learn she's an elven princess, but she blushes when she sees Alan, who thinks she doesn't like him since he has black hair. The third one is a dwarf named Meru, and everyone finds her cute, but Karloff tells Alan to take care of his new classmates, since he only has 5 members in his party. As they have lunch together, Sophie reveals that she's a spirit mage, while Valmer is an archer, and Meru tells everyone about her super rare talent, which she can't use to its full potential. She thinks she won't be as useful as the others, but she's determined to get stronger, and notes that they still have 2 years before they join the war. So Alan realizes they know what will happen after they graduate, and he welcomes them into his party. After that, Alan sees the headmaster, who reveals that he came to check on Sophie, since she's a member of the royal family. He explains that even though he's the headmaster, her life is more valuable since she's a princess, so he wants Alan to take care of her. After 4 days, Alan hosts a welcome party for his new friends, and the elves pray to their god before they enjoy their meals. Sophie reveals that they worship the sovereign of spirits Rosen, who gave them spirit magic, and they pray so that he can ascend and become the god of spirits. Mara notes that she doesn't pray, since her god Degragny told his followers they don't need to do it. She reveals that the dwarves worship him as the dungeon master, and notes that he invented all the magic tools, which everyone uses to this day. Alan reveals that he doesn't have a god, but Keel notes that he worships Elm, who helped him learn healing magic. Alan decides to split the party into 2, since he wants to conquer A-ranked dungeons with his friends, while helping the newbies level up at the same time. He explains that he and Dagora will help the newbies, while Krenna and the others clear the 3rd A-ranked dungeon, but he knows it won't be easy for them, so he'll support them with his summons. The first group heads to a B-ranked dungeon, where Alan shows everyone their stats, but Dagora can't believe how old Sophie and Valmer are, so Sophie explains that elves have a long lifespan. Alan summons his birds, and they start to explore the dungeon, but a giant spider gets in their way. Mara rushes toward it, but it sends her flying, so Valmer shoots it in the head, and Dagora is impressed that he killed it in 1 hit. They realize Meru is injured, so Sophie summons a water spirit to heal her, and explains that she isn't as powerful as clerics or wizards, but her spirit magic is excellent for providing support. Mara reveals that her talent allows her to control golems, but it isn't useful since she didn't bring one to the academy. As they take a break, Sophie tells Alan and Dagora they're amazing, so she wants to fight with them on the battlefield, but Alan tells her they don't get to choose where they will be deployed. He wonders why she seems to respect him, so she explains it's because he's the boy mentioned in Rosen's prophecy, who will free the world from darkness, but he thinks it's nonsense. They reach the boss's room, where Sophie uses her extra skill to summon the Earth Elemental Gnome, and orders it to destroy the boss. It lifts the rocks, and uses them to crush the boss to death, and everyone is amazed at her power. After some time, the newbies become strong enough to clear an A-ranked dungeon, while the original members beat the 4 rank A dungeons in the academy. Before the summer break, the headmaster talks to Alan and Krenna, and he tells them the academy will host another martial arts tournament. He wants them to participate, but Alan explains he isn't interested, since he thinks there's no reason to display his skills. The headmaster notes that everyone wants to learn about his powers, since he's the boy of the prophecy, but he still refuses to participate, so Helmius shows him his MP recovery ring. He reveals that Rosen made it for him, and tells Alan he won't find anything like it, since MP recovery rings don't drop in dungeons. Helmius notes that the upcoming tournament is special, since the runner-up gets to fight Verd, while the champion will face him in the final match. He offers to give Alan the ring if he beats him, and as he tries it on, he realizes it recovers 1% of his mana per second. He thinks it's extremely useful, so he decides to participate in the tournament, and Helmius tells him he has 2 months to prepare. He knows he needs to raise his level to defeat Helmius, so he travels to the adventurers' guilds around the kingdom and buys as many magic stones as he can, while his friends clear their 5th A-ranked dungeon. After weeks of grinding, his summon skill finally reaches level 7, so he can now summon B-ranked creatures. Alan returns to the academy after 2 months, and his friends realize he has grown taller, since he's now 14 years old. He tells Krenna he'll beat her, since he has gotten a lot stronger, and she looks forward to fighting him. Alan and Krenna start to clash in the championship match, but she notices he isn't using his skills, so she tells him to stop holding back. She rushes toward him and tries to activate her limit break, but it doesn't work, so he realizes she still hasn't mastered her extra skill. He struggles to keep up with her, so he takes out his book, but she hits him with her flame slash before he can use his magic. She becomes worried since she thinks she hurt him, but he suddenly points his sword at her and tells her she lost because she let her guard down. She admits defeat and wonders how he countered her flame slash, but he doesn't reveal his secret. Krina prepares to fight Vert again, and Alan thinks she has a chance since they're both at level 60, but he knows she can't win without her limit break. They start to fight, but Vert overpowers her and knocks her back, so she uses her skill to heal herself. But he immediately follows up with his Earth Blast, which sends her flying. She gets back up and suddenly starts to exude a mysterious aura as she activates her limit break, and he struggles to block her attacks. She overwhelms him and knocks him down, so everyone thinks it's over, but he refuses to admit defeat and decides to fight her seriously. She charges in to finish him off, but his sword suddenly starts to glow, and he attacks her with his guard breaker. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.